Good morning, everyone, and happy Palm Sunday. I'm Charlotte McGinnis, and as always, want to thank you for taking a few minutes to join me here on these Sunday mornings or at your convenience for my soulful conversations. And looking forward to sharing Palm Sunday with you, simple genius and faith. We're going to talk about a few things today. I'm going to try my best to weave them together and make sense of it all. But in the meantime, I hope you guys are doing great and having a good week and week to come. It's beautiful here. Spring has sprung, starting to see little buds on the flowers outside, and the trees are starting to get a little color. So that's always beautiful and always sort of coincides with Easter. So I love this time of year for sure. So it's kind of different, the past few years doing my services virtually, which I enjoy very much. And I think it's convenient for a lot of people. You can just sit at home, listen to me on the couch in your pajamas, and hopefully be inspired that way. And that's pretty good, ain't it? And I've got this shirt on, but you don't know what I have on below. I could have on my pajama pants for all you know. And isn't that fun? But I'll tell you the truth. I have on pants that match, just in case you're curious. Not that you are. Okay, so anyway, this week got a busy week as we're continuing our book study on holy moments. It's been wonderful. It's really fabulous. We have recordings of all the first three classes we've had. They've been really, really good, and the group has gotten very connected. And we're going to do something in the future. I don't know what, but I'm sure it will be another awesome book. But we have two more in this class. So anyway, you're welcome to join us. All the information is on my website, charlottemcginnis.com. Well, this week on Heart to Heart, my guest is Natalie Considine. And Natalie is the daughter of my dear friend Julie, who I am co-doing the group with, the Holy Moments book study. And Natalie is her amazing daughter. You're going to love her. She's got a great story. She's recently moved here to the Carolinas from New York, and it's good. We're going to have fun. I can guarantee that. But one thing I do want to let you know is that she has to work till 5:30. So we're going to start at 6 instead of 5. So mark that in your calendar. This week, we're moving to 6 o'clock. And actually, the following week will be at 6 as well. And I'm very excited about my guest. It is Marcus and Sheila Gillette. Sheila is actually the voice of Theo, the consortium of archangels, and she is amazing. They're both amazing. So although we're going to focus on the Theo messages, we're going to also just talk about those two, because those two together are awesome with or without Theo. They're just amazing people. And next Sunday is our Namaste Center Soul Family Reunion. We're going to have a brunch in Flat Rock at Spring Haven Clubhouse. All are welcome to join us. It's at 2 p.m., but please let me know if you can come. We got to make arrangements for everybody. So we're providing the ham. We're asking people to bring a side dish. And if you want to come, just let me know. Send me an email, charlottemcginnis@gmail.com. Say I'm coming. I'm bringing 3 friends, whatever. Everyone's welcome. But we just want to make sure we have enough for everybody. And last but not least, our prayer ministry is continuing to be a blessing and really offering support to so many who are in need, which seems to be a lot of people these days. I find it very interesting how challenged so many people are. But I'm also inspired by how people are lifted up by the prayer support, by support from groups, by being here together today. There are things we can do to shift from the darkness to the light, from fear to love. So the prayer ministry is one of many ways, and I'm grateful for the prayer team. We have about 90 ADL ministers who support that, and we are blessed to have the Unity Village prayer ministry pray over our request for 30 days. So it's pretty amazing. We can thank Reverend Teresa for that and making that happen, and all is well. So now that I've given my pitch for what's coming up, I'm going to get into today's talk. And if you feel inspired to pass it along, please do so. You can share it via the link in YouTube, my YouTube channel, or on Facebook. Okie doke. So today, Palm Sunday, here we are again, right? I always call this the Super Bowl of religion, right? And I mean that in a playful, loving, fun way. I see this as really the the honoring of the life of Jesus and all he came here to do and to teach and to be for each and every one of us, and all he demonstrated. And so, and as of course, the crescendo being Easter Sunday, the resurrection, which we'll talk about more next week. But Jesus, as a man, as a child of God, he came here to demonstrate what is possible and potential in each and every one of us. And I think we really need to take that in and realize how powerful that is. I know some people still have their wounds from childhood and church and Jesus. And I still have people, if anything about Jesus, I don't want to hear about it. And I get it. And it kind of makes me sad though, because I am sad because they may have been taught about the life of Jesus in a way that wasn't as compassionate and loving and exciting as I find it. And he is a master among many who walk this earth to teach a very profound and powerful message. So we're going to talk about Palm Sunday, which commemorates Jesus' journey into Jerusalem. And I think we can all visualize that in our minds. He's riding on the donkey, they're waving the palm branches, they're singing, and he's on top of the world. And as it was a highlight of his week for sure. And the things that follow, I believe, are something we can all relate to. You know, one day we're on top of the world, everyone likes us, and then all of a sudden comes his betrayal. We can relate to betrayals. I'm sure each and every one of us can, being denied and then crucified. And maybe we haven't been crucified physically, but we have been crucified maybe by our character, by our mistakes. And, you know, we've all experienced this. But the cool thing is, and the message of all of this is, yes, we've all been through this. But how are you choosing to walk this path, the path of your life? Are you going to allow it to be an excuse for you to stay little and stuck and angry and mad and defensive and stay in self-pity? Or are you going to use that as a lesson, which I do believe that we are here on classroom earth and we're learning big lessons. And ultimately the lesson is forgiveness. And then beyond forgiveness, realizing there's really nothing to forgive. So, and of course, Jesus, that ultimate act of forgiveness he offered to his assailants, that was forgive them, for they know not what they do. We all have that within us. Even the least among you can do all I've done in greater things. That is direct from Jesus. We all have this potential to overcome the world. That's how he ascended. He came back into his body. He literally walked the world 3 days later. He rose from the dead. He overcame the world. But the difference between him and us is that he did the work and we're doing the work. So we've got a ways to go if we may, but we do have a ways to go to be like Jesus. But on the other hand, there's a lot of things we can do to accelerate the process. So Jesus definitely taught us that we all have the power. We just have to activate it. Well, as I say often, we have really all the tools and direction that we need to do this. It's just a matter of choices, which we're going to talk to a little bit, address in a little bit. But I want to back up a little bit. Last week, I was not able to join you all, and I had my talk all planned out on Einstein, and it's, as fate would have it, interesting things happen, and that the universe is always scheming perfectly, and I recognize that. Never question the synchronicity and the flow of the universe. If we just surrender and trust the process, it all works better than we can imagine. So I didn't do my Einstein talk. I was in West Virginia, and I was asked to perform the service, the memorial service, for a dear family friend who lived to be 95 years old. Um, it was a small graveside service, family and close friends, and it was definitely an honor to be able to officiate that, be there, and it was really moving. But and it wasn't necessarily anything that I did that made it so moving, but just the energy of the appreciation and the love for this woman, Patty, and all how she showed up for life, and how, she was a simple woman. She didn't accomplish, anything in the world necessarily. Well, she did, bigger than what most of us identify accomplishment with. But her, she was peaceful. She was kind. She was humble. She loved her family. She cared about her family. She went with the flow. She had all the attributes of someone who was comfortable in their skin. And that to me is more meaningful and powerful than sometimes major accomplishments. And yeah, there's people who come here and they do huge accomplishments and do great things, but we have to make sure not to minimize the power of these humble, loving people who are really doing the soul work for humanity, and that is as powerful as anything we can do that seems grandiose. So that was certainly a blessing for me last week to be able to officiate her memorial. And then, sadly, a childhood friend of mine passed this past week, and she was loved by everybody. This gal was a twin. Her name was Judy, and everybody who knew her loved her. And her sister, Jill, her identical twin. They were beautiful inside and out. And I know it's a big, huge loss for the family and friends and her children and her husband. And but Judy also personified goodness, kindness. She was always smiling, always kind, never felt anything but just this peace and love coming from her. And the neat thing about this, and I know this about both of these ladies, Patty and Judy, is their faith was so strong that they knew that their destiny, what lies beyond this world. And they were comfortable with that. They were peaceful with that. And their peace, their comfort, and their faith in their transition was a blessing to all that knew them, because their kindness and sincerity were who they were in life is who they are in eternity. And so their faith, their demonstration of godliness, okay, love really, was their greatest blessing and legacy that they will leave, they have left on this earth. And it was a great message for me, because I'm realizing now more and more, as it seems to be, and I'm sure part of it is my age. I don't consider myself that old yet, but I think part of this comes when you get to a point people do start to die and leave their bodies, and I get that, but it seems more and more there's crazy illnesses coming up, a lot of things happening, a lot of people getting sick that we didn't have before. Well, Princess Kate, right? What a beautiful expression she shared with us a couple of days ago, and I felt so much for her. She that was not easy for her, I'm sure, but it touched so many people's hearts. And there are people going through challenges, and we're all doing the best we can with what we have, but we can also aspire to strengthen our faith and our trust, and have that knowing that all is well no matter what. So today's talk, I am integrating a little, as I had last week, had my talk gone as planned, it would have been entire talk on the genius of Einstein, but now we're into um, Palm Sunday, and I'm integrating the two. So today's talk is simple genius um, and faith, and how we can. We're all geniuses. We all have that potential within each and every one of us. So Jesus, he was a light that came into this world like we've never seen. And his life was a demonstration of his faith, knowing who he was in truth. And he's laid out the path for us. And it's really a pretty simple path, but saying that, just because it's simple, it's not easy. And the reason it's not easy is because we've got our claws too dug in to ego identity, things that we think are that we want. We're chasing, looking for love in all the wrong places. We're chasing things that really aren't that important. And so if we would just let go of the reins, surrender to that, then, the good stuff can come forward. Our true power can come forward. So when you think of Jesus, and I talked about Jill and Patty a few minutes ago, and I know you all are holy beings and are all beautiful beings, and so we all are, we're here. If you're here today listening, then that means that you are striving or choosing to be more enlightened, more aware. You're choosing to live from a place of peace and compassion and kindness and humbleness and joy and love and safety. And all of those are attributes of living in the light, following love, following God, if you choose to call it God, following the teachings of Jesus. And when we think of Jesus, I always go back to his humility and always think, what would he be like if he walked on the earth today? And I can't imagine he'd be too much different than what we're taught about him 2000 plus years ago. I think that he would still be humble. He would be very safe. He would be very compassionate, kind, loving. He he would be someone that you would love to be with. And I don't think he would be preaching out of a mega church or uh, necessarily driving, fancy car or what have you. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But often I think that we get so caught up in chasing the stuff that we forget the message. So I think of this, I love this quote. I've shared it before, but let's talk about who Jesus really was. He had no servants, yet they called him master. Had no degree, yet they called him teacher. Had no medicines, yet they called him healer. Had no army, yet kings feared him. He won no military battles, yet he conquered the world. So I think of the quote from the Course in Miracles, "In my defenselessness, my safety lies." Our real power is in our defenselessness. Our innocence is our strength. We have this hang up with how many letters we can get beside our name. I got this degree, and these, and it's all, it's good. It can be helpful, but what's it really mean? He had no degree, yet they called him teacher. He was a healer, and he had no medicines. His faith, he healed at the highest degree, which is, we'll talk about that another time. I've talked about it over the years. But yes, he was a great healer. He wasn't a doctor. He had no army, yet kings feared him. And so what does that say? That's what I believe we need to all tap into is live more from the heart. That's how we conquer the world. And that is the most fearful, that is what I believe the dark side is most afraid of, is the light, right? The dark, and I use that as a metaphor for my life, your life, the collective world. what the ego is most afraid of is us realizing that we are the light of the world, and to live from that premise, because in that place, no matter what happens, it's all okay. So in this ego, illusory, crazy world that we think is real, and we give all this meaning to, we're fighting for what? There's wars, there's greed, suffering, fear, sickness. There's all kinds of insanity, in this world. I was talking to a couple of girlfriends a couple of days ago, and this is an insane world, and it's never really going to be fixed. I don't think it's about being fixed. It's how we show up in the moment. And that's how we conquer the fear. That's how we overcome the darkness, is it from that place of certainty of knowing who we are as a child of light, as a child of God, a child of love. And when we live from that and shine that light brightly, the darkness disappears. Isn't that awesome? We all have that within us. And that's what Jesus came here to remind us of. We just have to take that in. So Einstein, I am going to go into his teachings a little bit today, because it is appropriate in the message I'm sharing, and certainly supports that. And of course, Albert Einstein is deemed to be one of the greatest minds that ever walked the earth. And I think, well, how did that happen? What makes someone a genius like that, or a prodigy? And I believe, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I do believe kind of that our soul, is on a journey, and our soul sort of carries with it into all of these things we've collected over, you can say, lifetimes or what have you. But the more we put into something and really let go of the chatter and tap into the mind of God, then our genius can come forth. And I loved Einstein because he was, as I said, one of the greatest minds that ever walked the planet. And yet he expressed his teachings, his findings simply. Jesus was the same way. He was not out there making anything complicated. We get too complicated in with how we process things, how we live our lives. I remember when I was pursuing a career in golf, I was very intuitive with that. I didn't, if I would have broke my swing down and gotten too complex with it, I would have been a nutcase. And I find that often is the case with how we do life. We're trying to figure it out, and it's not meant to be figured out. And Einstein says, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Isn't that the truth? Genius is making complex ideas simple, not making simple ideas complex. So, keep it, what do they say in 12 steps? KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Well, keep it simple, sweetheart. Let's be a little kinder there. But, we think, and we give we don't have to read these books. I mean, you can. I mean, Course in Miracles, that's one of those books, right? But it's even the Course in Miracles says, this is just the beginning. Throw the book away. Basically, it's not going to, you're not going to find what you're looking for here, but it's a path to a point. Ultimately, what we're here to do is know that we don't need the books. It's about just acceptance and opening up our hearts and our minds to the intelligence of the universe. Which is there for all of us, the divine mind. And that's who we are in truth. We are divine. We are holy. We just got to flip on the light switch, right? So I love this because I'm finding also that I've talked about this in the past, and I'm sure I'll talk about it down the road more, but AI, artificial intelligence, and I don't know about you, but I'm noticing how it's every day edging in a little more into our daily affairs and a part of our life. And boy, they're really good with that. And it's so subtle, but it's like, wow, it's interesting. And I think there's some good in that. I think there's it can, as everything can be used for ego or holy purposes, right? Same with AI, but we have to be very careful as to how we relate, interact with artificial intelligence. And one of the things that I've read, someone said this week, just live 10 more years because then we'll be able to be immortal. I thought, well, really? Well, that means that I will be more of an AI being than a spiritual being. That's how I perceive that. So that's not really something appealing to me. I believe in the technology that can be useful, but anything that takes away the essence of who I am. And there are many teachers who believe that there is a war, excuse that language, on this for the soul of humanity. And I think that it means, what does that mean really? That if we're not mindful of our decisions and our choices, that we're giving our power away to that which is not of the light. And so we have to be careful to guard our true sense of who we are, our souls, that aspect of us which is changeless, formless, and eternal, and only love. I was speaking to a friend a couple of days ago, and she had heard something from Bruce Lipton, wonderful teacher that I follow. And he was, and I agree with this, we've talked about this as well, that the more we are in our power of knowing who we are as a child of God, the less we will be impacted by any of the darkness, illusion of darkness outside of us. So this whole lesson, this whole life that we're living is about waking up to the truth of who we are. We hear about moving into the fifth dimension. Well, you can't carry your baggage and your ego and your judgment and your grievances and still expect to be like Jesus. Just don't work, right? Well, Einstein says, and this was 50 years ago, it has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity. And I think that that is something to pay attention to. This was 50 years ago, and look at 50 years ago was nothing. Now look at technology and how it's exceeded our humanity. We need to go back to the source of who we are in truth, which is love. There's debate, I guess, as to whether Einstein, he never really said he was a religious man, but he knew that there was a divine mind that he wanted to be a part of and he wanted to tap into. And one of the things he said, I want to know God's thoughts, the rest are details. In this eloquent statement, Einstein emphasized his quest for understanding the fundamental principles and wisdom behind the universe. So this is the formless, this is the mystery, the God thoughts, and it's available for all of us. We just have to quit giving our attention to the ridiculousness of the judgments and the separation and the whatever we perceive as idols in our life, and there are many. So we have to become more miracle minded. Einstein says there's only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is though everything is a miracle. Don't wait for miracles, because our whole life is a miracle. And so when we take that everything is truly a miracle, then we're seeing God in everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're not judging it. We're seeing that everything is divine and holy. And just by being in that state, not getting into our judgment and our pointing fingers, but just that state of blessing, then we're offering healing to every situation. That's the greatest sense of power we can bring into every moment of our life. Insanity, that doing this, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting it to change. Well, how's that working for you, right? Well, he goes on to say also, the purest form of insanity is to leave everything it is as it is and hope something will change. Same statement, just a little different. So we have to understand that we have power that we've never tapped into, that he was aware of, and he wanted to know God's thoughts. He knew that's where the good stuff was. It wasn't in a book. He went on to say, instead of reading other people's books, write your own. Well, I would take that a step further, just be that channel of a receiver, of the intelligence of creation, of, that same, I believe I heard it first from Joel Osteen years ago, and I hear it now from many people, but it said the spark that rose Jesus from the dead, that spark of divinity that rose Jesus from the dead is within each and every one of us. He activated his, we didn't. Well, you want to move into this dimension of non-duality, of ascension consciousness. Well, you got to let go of, as Einstein says, weak people want revenge, strong people forgive, intelligent people ignore. So, do you want revenge, or are you willing to forgive? And I love this. Intelligent people just ignore. Don't even give it any energy. Don't feed the fire. So we have to be willing, we're moving into definitely a new way of being, good, bad, or ugly. I choose to say it's a more elevated state of awareness. And so all the crud is being shaken out. And I've spoken often over the years that, I love the idea that Buckminster Fuller, we have to destroy the old model to create a new one. And Einstein says we can't solve the problems of today with the mentality that created them. We can't get to where we dream of being unless we change our thinking today. So we have to be willing to sort of cut the cord of the past. And I was listening to Greg Braden a couple of days ago, who I try to listen to him as often as possible. I just love him. And interesting, he has, very large audience, people who really, many people think he's one of the greatest minds on the planet today. And I have to say, I agree, just because he's so heart-centered and so intelligent, and he's able to express these big issues in very simple forms. And he's even doing a lot of talk on prophecy now, and it's very interesting, his take on that. So he's very biblically intelligent, and he brings science and spirituality together, which is he's just remarkable. As you can tell, I like Greg. But anyway, he was speaking the other day. He was being interviewed, and the fella who was interviewing him asked, what do you think the greatest way we can move through the muck of the world? It's not exactly what he said, but you get my drift. And the answer was that, and it's so true, and we've talked about this here for years, is that when he asks that question to his audiences, what do? They immediately go to the problem. Immediately. Well, this politician or that person or this situation or blah, 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 blah. So where is the energy and focus and attention going? Where intention goes, energy flows, right? So when they get caught up in their drama, their story, what have you, now all of a sudden, guess what? We're creating more of the same. And it's not about fixing the old model. It's not about pointing fingers. I see and I'm guilty of the same thing, but I'm trying more, I'm choosing to be more aware of it when I get stuck, and I do get stuck sometimes, but I recognize that is just keeping the problem alive. And if we want to live in ascension consciousness, if we want to overcome this world, we got to let go of the story that we've made up and quit pointing fingers and quit judging. And I just Well, I'm just saying it because I definitely, if there's anything I know for sure, like Oprah said, one thing I know for sure, it ain't helping. Okay. We got to make room for the miracle, the divine mind to come in. So, so Einstein knew, he had a glimpse and a knowing of the power of the tapping into that God consciousness. And this is a simple quote, and I love it though. And this is about choice, right? We're free will beings. Everything that exists in our lives does so because of two things: something we did or something we didn't do. So we have to recognize, take responsibility for thoughts. Everything, we have to take responsibility for everything. And boy, it's much easier sometimes to blame, attack, defend, take a side, whatever. And that's low vibration consciousness for sure. So, and like Einstein says, thinking is hard work. That's why so few do it. Well, I look at this, so few do this because, it's easier to just blame somebody else than to take responsibility and work through it ourselves, right? Well, how's that working for you? And you're not going to, I don't think we're going to get very far on the evolutionary path if we continue to do that. And if, what does the Course say? Delay is meaningless in eternity, but tragic in time. So if you want to stay in that muck of duality and karma, which karma is just the belief that there needs to be a consequence for something. If you cut the karma, there is no karma in truth. Another lesson sometime. But also, just because we believe something doesn't mean that it's true. So, everybody has, how many people are on the planet? There's 8 billion people, just under, I think. There's probably 8 billion different thoughts about most things. So the truth is different for all of us. It's live and let live. And I love this. A clever person solves the problems while a wise person avoids them. So this is so true. We don't, if you see the train coming down the track, don't run towards it, just walk away from it. What's that story about falling into the hole 3 times, going around the block? And so it's like, you've heard the story. I'm not going to go into it. So do you want to keep falling into that hole, or do you just want to walk around it, avoid it? So, another thing is, again, if we stay present in our divine mind, open to receive the intelligence of the universe, nothing is impossible, nothing. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, this quote says, "Not everyone knew it was impossible until a fool who didn't know it came along and did it." And years ago, when I was young and looking into alternative spiritual things, I had become interested in learning about astral traveling. And, so I bought a cassette tape on it, listened to it, and boom. And everyone, you hear that it takes years. It happened with one tape, one time. And I was like, wow, that's cool. Well, then I hear people, oh, well, that's such an evolved spiritually place to be, and it takes years to develop that talent, blah, blah, blah. Well, the point is, I didn't know it was supposed to be difficult. And guess what? Because I didn't know better, I did better. So I was that fool. So even I see a lot of, spiritual, I snobbery, that separation, and you have to go through this to get here. Well, it's all what we believe. We all have the power of the universe within us. Be more kind, be more loving, be willing to forgive. All of those things are part of our ascension process. So a leader, and I look at Jesus as a leader. There's other leaders on the planet today, and the leader is one who out of the clutter brings simplicity, Out of discord, harmony, and out of difficulty, opportunity. Simple, simple, simple. So we're all leaders, right? Be the vessel, make your life a demonstration of peace and love and kindness. And I love this. And this is something that, I did trace it down to the best of my ability. And I believe this is to be true, an Einstein quote, and actually written in one of his books. But it's not in the context that it came out on Facebook. But this particular sentence, God did not create evil. Just as darkness is the absence of light, evil is the absence of God. So, as I said earlier, turn on the light. We are free will beings. We can choose the light. We can choose the darkness. This is our dream we're making up, and our lesson is to turn on the light. So as I move towards the end of this, this is something that I found kind of hopeful and meaningful, and it's about 41. And I've never really heard it in this context before, so I want to share it with you. And it goes on to say, in the Bible, the flood lasted 40 days and 40 nights. Day 41 came and the rain stopped. Moses committed murder and hid in the desert for 40 years. Year 41 came and God called him to lead Israel out of Egypt. Moses went up on the mountain for 40 days, and on day 41, he received the 10 commandments. The Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, and year 41, they walked into the promised land. Goliath taunted Israel for 40 days. Day 41 came, and David slew him. Jonah preached a message of repentance to Nineveh for 40 days, and on day 41, God stopped his plan to destroy them. Jesus fasted and was tempted for 40 days. On day 41, the devil fled. After his resurrection, Jesus appeared to his disciples for 40 days. On day 41, he ascended into heaven. All this to say, don't quit. The rain will stop, the giant will fall, and you will enter your promised land. Don't give up at 40. 41 is coming. So it is, what's the quote? God doesn't choose the qualified, he qualifies the chosen. If we can let go and choose the light, then our 41s will all be here in a moment. So don't give up. 41 is coming. So this Holy Week is an invitation to remember, when you're feeling alone, afraid, or suffering in any way, choose the miracle, choose the light. We're all here in this classroom learning to choose the light, turn to God, and then we too, like Jesus, will overcome this world. So everybody have a great Holy Week. Definitely looking forward to next week and sharing an Easter message. And in the meantime, be well, pass this along to your friends if you feel moved to do so, and many blessings. Namaste.